Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hour 2 of News Flash Election Day coverage. We are live for you here today with a great show. We'll give you a review of what we'll know and when we'll know it. An hour-by-hour guide to interpreting these Election Day results. What to expect, how to view it, and how to not drive yourself crazy. Also, we'll take a look at the Joe Biden campaign, where they stand, how confident they're feeling, and how well have they played this election up until this point. Also, most importantly, in this hour, the Trump campaign. How have they played themselves heading into the election? Do they feel confident in win? And if they don't win, what will be the future of the Republican Party? And maybe, if it's close, the future of the next 2 weeks. We have a very, very interesting guest to join, and always someone with great analysis, David Langan. Welcome to our second hour of coverage here today on Election Day. Hope your day is going well so far.
Happy Election Day, Spencer.
Yeah, happy Election Day to you as well. And what really could be election week plus. As this year, the rise of mail-in voting will make election night much harder to follow. The results will be heavily skewed at various points of the night in most states, depending on when a state counts mail-in ballots, in-person, early voting, or election day voting. And there will probably be people trying to mislead you to think that a result is in a certain place when really all mail-in votes have came in, and that may lean the vote Democratic, and maybe all in-person votes could make it appear more Republican. Here are some 3 tips from everyone from Nate Cohn at the Upshot in the New York Times. He says, be cautious. A lot of states are changing the way they're administering the election, and even the experts don't know exactly how all this is going to go. If you want to dig into detailed results, focus on the right places. If you're the kind of person who checks the results by county, make sure you're focusing on counties where all the votes have been counted. Partial results will be heavily skewed toward whatever vote method was counted first. So hone in on the places where results are already complete. And really something you can look for is if a candidate is beating expectations with results that were supposed to be strong for the other candidate. Finally, focus on states that count their early and mail votes before counting election day votes. They'll probably wrap up most of their count on election night. So their counties will probably tell us that we're really all where the vote's in. Where we're going to see this is Florida, Iowa, and Ohio. And Texas, which are good examples of this, and we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for Pennsylvania and Arizona. So, yeah, we can actually give you the hour-by-hour times here of what to expect. But before we do that, I do want to give you, David, I want to give you a sense of what you're going to be watching for, especially with these Florida, Iowa, and Ohio. Those results are probably going to give us a good idea of how the rest of the night is going to go.
Yeah, but that's if we can actually get some results that are reliable. We were talking about this just a minute ago. This is election like nothing else I've ever seen. The number of mail-in ballots is just excruciatingly gigantic. And yeah, you're right. It depends on how they're processing those ballots. Did they start counting them? Did they start counting them on election day? I mean, if they're counting them on election day, you're going into the next day. There's almost no way. And then all the contestation that's going to take place when it's all said and done. I am not. If we get results inside 2 weeks, I'll be happy.
Do you think that, how aggressive do you think the Trump campaign is going to be with challenging these votes?
I think both camps are going to challenge everything they possibly can. There's a reason they all hired 100 and some odd plus lawyers. These people this is all they do, is ferret out minuscule statutes that make minuscule differences. And if we remember back in 2016, the president won a bunch of states by a couple of thousand votes. And that's all it takes. Is a couple of thousand votes. You can bet that both sides are going to dig for everything they can get.
Mm-hmm. But what would you say the Biden campaign is going to be challenging? What are they going to be? We know Trump's going to be looking for the mail-in votes, trying to sow doubt about them,
right?
and the large number of that. What is Biden going to be? What is his equivalent of that?
He is going to insist that they count absolutely everything, whether they're postmarked or not. Did they come in the right envelopes or not? Do the signatures match or not? A lot of these are judgment calls by the Board of Elections in individual states, and I can't see any of that ending well. Especially if you're if that election board is run by an opposing party.
And a lot of those rules are kind of, there are procedures in place though, per state, and it's such a patchwork. But the question is, how are they going to? Each has their way that they do it, and I think most people, call me a little bit optimistic here, but I think most people are going to expect that that they're going to stick to the way things normally go, or at least the rules that have already been set out well in advance, so that people know they're playing by the same rules they played by for the last 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah, but we're talking about the way things normally go when you have a quarter as many mail-in ballots. I think that changes everything, and I think that changes everyone's perception, especially if we start going into the long extra innings on counting absentee ballots, just the straight mail-in ballot. In New York, all you have to do is sign an affidavit that says you're the person who signed the ballot. I can tell you, I received in New York City, I received 2 military ballots and an absentee ballot that I didn't ask for.
Yeah, that was a big thing in New York City. People just receiving double ballots, and then you send both ballots back, but you're not sure which one's right. Yeah, so it's going to be. Yeah, there will definitely be a lot of problems.
At least 3 dead relatives that received ballots. This is going to be a problem. Now, granted, it's New York. It will not matter. Joe Biden, he could be completely brain dead and still win New York.
Mm-hmm.
But in other places where there have been glitches, you can bet that there are going to be challenges.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be some. Hopefully, we know enough to get at least a good idea of the way things are going to go. At least by election night, or we have some sense of who's ahead. So there at least there's less chaos in the days to come.
I think it will be so negligibly ahead that that's barring the fact that let's say you get to call a place like Florida, a place like Pennsylvania, then you can contest it all you like, but Donald Trump is not. He doesn't have much success without winning Florida, at least.
Yeah. For something like the mechanisms of the Supreme Court to play in, or maybe all the judges he's been appointing to take a role in this election, he's going to have to get to that point first, definitely.
Yes, I agree. It's going to be close. It's going to be close enough to those absentee and mail-in ballots, especially ones that are late and now put aside. We'll have to see. But God, I do hope that we don't have to go into counting all of these.
Yeah, hopefully
that will be ugly.
Yeah, if it gets to be kind of. Yeah, once it gets in 2,000 territory, possibly in multiple states, then we could be in real trouble. Let's start with 7 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Eastern time here. So here's some states we can go through, and here's what we can expect about these states. Florida counts actually pretty fast, but the problem with it is always very, very close. The early and mail-in votes will arrive first and probably lean Democratic. Don't be surprised to see Joe Biden take a lead. Then the election day votes should flood in. We'll see whether President Trump can keep it close before really when he gets his second wave of support when the 8 p.m. polls close at the Republican Panhandle. Nearly all the votes will be counted by this time. It's going to be a slow trickle to the finish unless it's a really close race. It should be called on election night with Florida. So yeah, right away there, we will get a good estimate. Like if Biden, for example, really like blows him out of the water in Florida, is like up by maybe 4 or 5 points, which in Florida is kind of blowing out of the water, then we kind of know how the rest of the night's going to go. But again, that's a really only margin we can make it determinative, because if it's close or Trump's winning, then anything could happen.
Yes, and especially if you look at how the polls trended. Biden was doing. If you look at all the real clear average, right? You're pretty close to the margin of error in so many of these states. There's no. You've got to beat. I'll feel better about it if the tallies come in outside the margin of error of the polls. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll feel better about that. Whoever it is, I don't care. I clearly have an interest in the outcome, but just as an outcome, the binary outcome, the election is decided or it's undecided. I think this, if you can clear the poll errors, then I'll be satisfied that either candidate wants to challenge various state election boards. There's not going to be much in it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just looking at the Real Clear Politics average of this, it is very, very close. And some of the in Florida we have 0.9, North Carolina for Biden, and Trump 0.2 in North Carolina.
Almost all of them. There are very few places where Donald Trump is a runaway, and where Biden is also like a phenomenal runaway. You got to remember that we're not talking about popular vote again, right? Donald Trump probably never could win the popular vote. Maybe he can. It'll still be super close. This is about winning the states that he has to win. When you look at the map of the country and you see where all the what's red and what's not, the entire center of the country is red. It's those giant population centers, New York, the states that contain those population centers. So New York, Illinois, California, Florida, you can throw them because of Miami. But, you only have to persuade so many people for so many electoral votes. It's a fascinating system that our founding fathers came up with. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is very much a land-based system there. That is, yeah, and it's everyone kind of has their different averages. Some people say that the polls. Some people have problems with the 530 average. Some people say the Real Clear Politics average includes too many like Rasmussen group polls, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Now to Ohio, early mail-in ballots and mail-in ballots will come in first, so don't be surprised to see Biden taking an early lead. Then we'll have to wait for the Election Day vote, which could take several more hours, and that's where Trump is going to have to mount a comeback. And this state, what do you see happening with Ohio?
Depends. What do I see? Ohio is. I have the feeling that Ohio will go for Trump, and the reason is that I'm looking back at some of the primaries, and the numbers of people who came out to vote for Donald Trump in a primary were astonishing. He was the only guy on the ballot. I mean, there were also Rands. I forget who was in there. That's how long ago it was. But they came out in record numbers to vote for a guy who was a shoo-in. It's like that. Ohio has always had a strong pull towards Trump.
Yeah.
So I figure Ohio goes to Trump.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a safe bet with